All right.
We drop in.
Rolling.
All right.
Good. Sounds good.
Okay. All right, Stephanos. Welcome to the Brave Table, love.
I feel very brave just being here.
I mean, you fit in with the modality of like the feminine background, your
My shirt matches
tattoos.
it.
You're very on brand with me right now. This is great.
This is fantastic.
This is great. Well, first and foremost, I want to say welcome.
Thank you.
I've been looking forward to this conversation so much because I feel like our audience, they're also mamas, but a lot of them are either looking for new love, like they're just in transition. They are really calling in their person and they haven't been able to find that person. So I kind of want to start first by saying congratulations because you're our papa.
I am. I'm officially a papa.
Wow. And you just entered, how old is she now?
12 weeks.
Okay, so she's 3 months.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, it's a big milestone. Yeah.
So can we talk about this really quickly? Because a lot of my audience are also new moms. And it's hard.
It's really hard. And I was just sharing with Chris outside, there's all these challenges. And don't get me wrong, there is all this beauty, 100%. And I embrace that every time I walk past her or I see her, the essence of her. You know, I put my face in her neck and kiss her and she's making grunting noises and I annoy her. I think I annoy her anyway.
Yeah.
And then there's some challenges of just being a little baby, right? And growing into her body and coming into her body and some of the challenges that come with that and the appointments and the specialists and the ensuring that everything is on track and just the general lack of sleep, which my hands up here, it's not that bad for me as it is for Christine, my wife.
So much.
It's so much worse for her. Like it's so much more intense, I should say, for her.
So much.
And functioning at the level that I want to function at. So I'm a high performer.
Yep.
I exercise vigorously.
Yep.
I can still do that, but I know it's coming at a cost. And so I have to pull myself back if I want sustainability and longevity in my beingness in the world.
Yeah.
But I work, I've gone back to work. I love my work. It's not really work, it's passion.
Yeah.
It's service, it's all those things, it's creativity. And I'm finding myself challenged by going at the pace that I was going earlier, functioning on far less sleep and having broken sleep. And I know it's temporary and it's bringing up a lot of shit for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm seeing my father in me.
Are you?
Yeah, like I'm becoming impatient.
Yeah.
I don't have I'm tolerating less. I'm like deflated a little more. Like I'm feeling these feelings. And I'm coming to the conclusion that if I just don't sit with them, not in self-pity and self-loathing, but just actually allow them to move through me.
Right.
They just
in
perpetuate.
The discomfort.
Yeah, that's right. They just perpetuate in a greater magnitude. And so these are some of my at a glance, some of my life lessons that I'm moving through right now.
Oh my God. I mean, it's so interesting that you share that because I feel like when you were describing like the deflation, the lack of patience, I feel like Ajit and I have really gone through that in the last year where, you know, it was our second child, but it was also like, oh my gosh, because you guys perform at a really high level and there's just so much. And I feel like there isn't that space really to share a lot of times because it's constantly go, go, go. And it's constantly what's the next thing.
Yeah.
So have you and Christine, I mean, I know you're in the thickness of it right now and it'll get better.
Yeah. So I'm told every day it gets a little better, right? And it does feel that way. And there's just a lot of focus on Athena's routine. That's our daughter's name. And so it's her routine and it's awake, it's feed, it's sleep, it's awake, it's feed, it's sleep, it's awake, stimulus, feed, sleep. It's all those things. And my relationship to time has completely changed.
Isn't it crazy?
It's ridiculous.
Like you're like, nope, I don't have time for that. And you're so unapologetic with saying no to things.
I'm far more now.
Yeah.
And I have to, I don't have that luxury. I can't make trivial things, right? Like I train with my friend Andy, and he's a ex-UFC fighter, and we just train like boxing, kickboxing, stand-up fighting, jiu-jitsu, whatever. Anyway.
Right.
And he couldn't make it on Friday to train me. And he said, how about, tomorrow or Sunday? I couldn't make a time.
Right.
Because I need, and again, like these are, call them development problems, right?
Right, of course. No, but it's
But what it's stimulating underneath for
I
me
know.
is the freedom that I had,
Mm-hmm.
or the perception of the freedom that I had.
Right.
And not the restriction, but the change in that now for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the challenging part, because freedom is my greatest value, but also my biggest wound. And so it's aggravating that wound now.
Mm-hmm. Can you speak to that wound a little bit of the freedom?
Yeah, for sure. So it comes from a number of different places. It comes from enmeshment with my mother, which is emotional projection, unconscious emotional projection of her needs onto me as the eldest son. And it's not limited to the eldest child, but in my case
Typically,
it was.
it's usually the eldest.
Yeah, typically. And sometimes not, but typically, yeah. It depends where that mother's relationship is, what stage of relationship she's in with her partner at that time, if he's around or not around, right? And what the dynamic is. It's constantly seeing my parents argue and be in turmoil and not have a really healthy understanding of relationship. It's growing up too early and being responsible for my parents, for my little brother, at least taking on that responsibility. It's not really having a childhood, because there was so much fear and volatility and violence. I didn't have real space to have fun and play. And so my freedom, or that was taken from me.
Yep.
And it's all of that and so much more, the bullying, the not being connected to myself.
You were bullied.
Yes,
growing up.
yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
not having, being overweight, hiding from the world. So that retraction is not being free and expanded in the world.
Wow.
And then hitting 16, 17, hitting the gym, losing weight, having more confidence, also a lot more aggression, because I was repressed and suppressed so much.
Yeah.
Basically becoming a little more popular, a lot more popular, and more grounded, confident, attractive as I grew older.
Sure.
And then it was like, wow, well, fuck that. Like, forget about that life. I'm going into this life. So I went into extremes, and I went into hedonism, and I went into full expression of whatever I thought freedom was, traveling, adrenaline, sex, all those things. And so the wound is not having it, and then moving into this extreme growing up as a young adult, and then coming back into equilibrium, and then finding this harmony in my life, in routine and so forth, as a 40-year-old man. And then having this quote unquote beautiful disruption, and very well planned disruption as well. But you can't prepare for those things. People can tell you, but you can't prepare. Like, you can't until you're in it.
Right.
And so now I'm navigating all that. And the old me would be in avoidance. The old me would go and numb and do whatever the things that I would do. The sex, the travel, the adrenaline. Not that any of those things are wrong.
Right.
But the come from wasn't grounded and healthy for me.
Of course.
But now I'm just being with that,
and you can't travel anywhere right now. I mean, you can, but like it's
not really, yeah.
There's a challenge.
And it's also really difficult for me. I ran an event for one of my businesses, men's movement, and it was a 3.5 day event. It was just here in Austin, but it was about an hour drive.
Yep.
I was struggling being away from my little girl for 3.5 days.
Of course. Oh, so you didn't come back home every day?
No.
Oh, wow.
The intensity of the experience was too much. I had to be there.
Oh, wow.
Too much for the participants. And I just couldn't.
You couldn't step away?
No.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So there's this internal tug of war, and it's all growing pains, right? And I'm just grateful that now I can face this stuff as opposed to running from it like I used to in the past.
Right. And for you to even recognize that, where the wound of your freedom came from, and one of your biggest values, like to know the duality of both of those and to sit with those. I feel like so many of us, and some of you listening, you're kind of like, what is that value of mine that's one of my top values, but is there wounding around it too? And I think that's a really good question to really think about and ask, if you're sitting in something like that right now, because I think it's such a testament to how you work with people.
Thank you.
And I want to get into, how did you then begin your journey into transformation, and what was that journey like for you? Because now you run men's groups here in Austin, one of the biggest ones, but you also coach a lot of women as well. So take us through that journey.
Yeah, part of it is, thank you for asking, part of it is what I just shared with you. I remember Dr. John Demartini saying our greatest voids become our greatest values, right? Hence the freedom piece, but also the journey that I'm on of service, of helping people touch into their potential and live a fuller life and not live from unconscious pain and suffering like I did for so long, right? And so that's a big part of it. And then the other part is the major catalyst that turned all of that for me was quite a number of years ago, being in a relationship and that woman discovering that I was unfaithful in that relationship and was cheating in that relationship, and just what that brought out in me, and the shame and the guilt that I really was faced with for the first time in my life, and the shadow aspect of myself that I was avoiding and running from. And so that really became a catalyst for deeper exploration. But again, I've been in the transformational space for 22 years, but I wasn't really addressing my stuff.
Okay.
You know, I was preaching, but not practicing what I was preaching, and I'd only go so deep and pull out.
Yeah.
And then that experience was a catalyst to go all the way in, and the commitment was, I am unraveling this and unpacking this no matter what. Like there is no way I'm going back to how I've been behaving, because it's been so wrong for me and so wrong for those that I'm, that are in my life for so many reasons. When I say wrong, I don't mean a value judgment like I am bad or I'm evil. I mean completely misaligned.
Misaligned with yourself.
With really who I really am. And not to say that, not to say that those expressions aren't part of me. They were, but they were expressed in a distorted, twisted way because I was suppressing them and repressing them, so they were leaking out in ways that weren't really authentic and real.
And so, wow, okay. And so as you were moving through that, what were some of the things that you were just like, what was being revealed to you in those moments or in that time period of this like profound healing and looking at some of those shadow aspects of yourself?
Yeah, a lot, including suicidal contemplation and being at the edge of that, facing demons that I hadn't faced for a long time, abuse and trauma that I had repressed and suppressed as a little kid. And I chose to work with shamans and coaches and counselors and psychologists and energy people.
Even around those suicidal ideation thoughts
everything, yeah.
Wow.
I spent a lot of time in solitude. I let go of my businesses that I had at the time. I got myself in a lot of debt, unhealthy debt.
Wow.
But I was just deeply committed to this path and this journey.
To your work.
Yeah, to my work, like for once and for all, so to speak. Because I knew what I wanted to be in the world and I was being it, but it wasn't, I was coaching people and I was supporting people, but there was no substance to it, like from my perspective. Especially when I look at where I am now and then I look back then, definitely not.
Yeah.
And so I just was really committed to that process no matter what. And I remember once I was in my lounge room and I was just on the floor crying, and I said to myself, I've got three choices here. I either end up in a mental asylum because this exploration is too much for me. I kill myself because it's too much for me.
Wow.
Or I get through this and I become a completely transformed individual, and maybe along the way I'm able to support other people as well. And I was deeply committed to the third option, and hence where I am today. But I crossed the threshold many times with the first two, that's for sure. Yeah.
Wow. And how are you integrated now as a father, as somebody that has really aligned themselves with an incredible partner? Which I feel like we got to get into that because Christine's one of our great friends. And I feel like the way you guys show up in relationship is just so inspiring to see, because both of you are really at this high edge of your, just you showing up in the way you do in the world, but then coming together as a dynamic duo. So how was that time period? And what did it take for you to kind of come out of where you were to attract a queen like Christine?
Yeah. Confidence, and the confidence was born out of those deep challenges that I experienced and the clarity that I took from those experiences and that deep dive, or that continuous deep dive immersive. And I just want to be super clear on something as well. I think it's evident, but it's also important to make it maybe just a little more clear.
Yeah.
I am still a work in progress. I'm still growing. I'm still learning with every
Love that you say that.
with every new experience. I'm just having my daughter our daughter in our lives. It has definitely brought new challenges for Christine and I in terms of intimacy, connection, communication.
And you guys are very open about talking about it. Like you guys bring it on your podcast as well.
Yeah. On her podcast,
On her
yeah, and we're
podcast.
going to go deeper into that as well. And it's asking us to go deeper into our own commitment to ourselves and to each other as well, and what that looks like, because we do have different perspectives sometimes. Thankfully and luckily, I should say, or blessed we are that, on big decisions we really agree on. There are a couple of things that we disagree on, and how we communicate that really matters, because I'm already in this frustrated space because I'm working through my own personal stuff, and that can leak out sometimes onto Christine, and that's not what she needs. She doesn't need me to project my frustrations on her to make a challenging situation more challenging. And so checking that and putting the ego to sleep at times and letting it just rest for a moment.
Ooh, and it's hard to do, especially when you're running on 3 hours of sleep.
So hard to do sometimes, and it's that conversation, and it's coming back to love and not needing to be right, and the simplicity of what would love do now, and reminding ourselves of that in the moment as well, because it's a lot. It's beautiful healing in this situation, in this experience that we're having, being a parent or being parents. And in order for that healing to transpire, it brings up that old stuff to the surface that has been hidden from us, in order to work through it, in order to feel the forgiveness and to feel the freedom in that feeling. But we have to feel it. And so it's in those moments of feeling we need to be very careful. I'll speak for myself. I need to be very mindful. I don't do any permanent damage with the things that I say or how I behave. When I say permanent damage, let me retract that.
Right.
Compounded damage that hurts, because one of my patterns is to be defensive and to be abrasive and to attack. It's a protective strategy that I learned growing up. And if I feel under pressure, it comes out reactively. And so my work is really being mindful of that and being aware of that. And I don't always get it right.
Right.
I definitely don't always get it right.
Well, and I mean, it takes that self-awareness to really say, I don't really know everything, and just that humility and the space to just kind of drop in and like admit to, okay, this is who I am and how I am. And to have a partner that's also meeting you in that way as well.
She's amazing. I mean, she's very open-minded. We repair very quickly if we have conflict. She really understands and sees my patterns, and so doesn't take it so personally. And I'm the same with her as well. I think she just does a more proficient job at it than me, if I have to be honest. But, we're able to come back, and she's amazing. She really doesn't need much. And what I mean by that is, like, if I can take ownership of my behavior and sincerely and genuinely apologize, like, literally that's enough for her. She just changes. She shifts the way then she opens, basically, to me. As simple as that. And she's amazing in that way. Whereas sometimes, not always, but sometimes for me, I need more time and space. And then other times I can open up very quickly, but that's indicative of the extreme environment, the volatility that I experience. And so I still, even in healing, I still oscillate between extremities sometimes.
Of course.
Just being mindful of that for me.
Of course. So there's a few directions coming up, because now you both are here, but I feel like I want to take the listeners back to when you first kind of met each other. How was that whole experience, and where were you at in your process? Because I know you were not in the States at the time.
No.
And how was that whole journey, and how did you know she was the one?
Yeah. I don't know how I knew. The words didn't come to me that she's the one. What came to me when we were first connected by our beautiful friends Akira and Renee.
Yeah.
What came to me was, there's something about this relationship and I really want to explore it. That was it, right? And so I was just very clear that I wanted to explore it. The introduction was made. We were both going to be in Europe at the same time a number of months later, which made it good, because I don't want to just have a relationship with someone across the world with, what does that actually mean? Right, because you were
in Australia at the time.
Yeah, I was in Australia at the time. I was living between Australia and Bali and going back and forth.
Oh, okay.
I had some work there, and it was a beautiful connection immediately. And I expressed that to her within a couple of weeks, and we were just very...
Oh, you told her right away?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, once I just wanted to feel out the communication a little more, and yeah, within a couple of weeks, I just said, "Hey, there's something here. I think you feel that way. It feels that you do. It's okay if you don't, but I'm just letting you know where I'm at." So where I was in my process was I had a relationship before that. That relationship ended, but I was faithful in that relationship. I was committed to that. I was very truthful in that relationship. I was definitely not perfect in that relationship by any means. A lot of old stuff still coming up, but I was very different to how I was in previous relationships, where every relationship really previous to that was cheating and infidelity and all of
Okay,
that.
so that was a pattern in your old relationships.
For sure.
And where do you think that kind of came from?
I used sex and I used being with different women as let me actually explain it this way.
Yeah.
For me, I wanted to be in an intimate relationship. Parts of me did. But then seeing what I saw growing up, not just in my own parents, but also in my friends around the neighborhood and their parents and their dynamics, very unhealthy relationships. And so there was a part of me that was very scared to be in a relationship. Couple that with my mum and my dad saying, if it wasn't for you kids, I'd leave, and watching them fight and say really nasty things to each other.
Yeah.
There was a part of me that was very fearful about being in an intimate relationship and the associations that I made.
And the freedom, that was your highest
freedom,
value.
yes. And also fear of intimacy. Because when I was a kid, being myself often got me into trouble and got me hurt. And so there's a fear of showing myself. And so anytime in a relationship that I'd be in as an adult, and there'd be a closeness that's coming, like a depth of closeness, which I craved, but at the same time I feared. And I literally pushed it away. I literally felt like it was this sense of annihilation coming. And so my coping strategy wasn't cocaine and partying. My coping strategy was escapism, travel, adrenaline, sex, prostitutes, chasing women, being distracted. That gave me a sense of freedom. And that gave me a sense of, oh, I'm safe. And I just didn't realize that until obviously after looking, taking a higher purview and being able to see the forest through the trees, I was able to see that that was a protective strategy. And so when I met Christine, I was aware of a lot of this. And I'd done a number of years of deeper healing on myself. And so I was rebuilding myself. I was rebuilding my businesses. I was very committed, very clear. I was on path. I was in and on purpose or purposes. And I was just really loving life. And I wasn't attached to needing to be in a relationship. I had some time and space not being in a relationship and recovering from that previous relationship and the stuff that brought up. Because relationships are great catalysts they're great teachers.
Oh yes, they bring up all the juicy stuff.
All the good things, right? They are replicas of our early childhood relationships as well, with our parents particularly.
For sure.
And so meeting her, I was just more confident and more clear, and I was just able to really communicate where I was at the time. And I think that was very refreshing for her as well.
But you were also unattached. It wasn't that
Correct.
like, okay, I need to find my woman right now.
I literally, before we were introduced, like a week before, a few days before, I was in a meditation, and I came out of that meditation feeling, okay, my heart's open now to be in partnership. And I literally had a thought like, I have a feeling I'm going to meet someone in Europe. Which I did when we met in Greece. We met earlier, obviously, virtually, but we met in Greece. And just, the first day we saw each other, it was just there. It was like coming home, it just felt right, for lack of a better term. And we moved in together that day, essentially.
Amazing.
And then, so the rest is history. And, we're here now 4 years later. And
wow,
it's been beautiful, and it's been some challenges, especially at the beginning when all our stuff came up, because there was an era of spiritual arrogance as well. It's like we've done so much work, and we had both of us done so much fucking work. Absolutely. And it's like this relationship thing's gonna be a breeze. That ego got squashed very quickly. It definitely wasn't, and if we weren't married, we would have broken up for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was intense. Because I was also going through some psychosomatic, sexual somatic intensives with a couple in San Diego. That was a few months long. And I knew that was like a final puzzle piece, one of the final puzzle pieces to, I don't know, a deeper sense of me experiencing wholeness and healing.
Right.
And it was. But again,
You were taking them through this
no,
experience.
they were taking me through
Oh,
it.
they
I
were
was a
taking
student.
you were the
It's very
student.
experiential, yes.
Oh,
And I knew it was a big
wow.
final puzzle piece for me of my
Wow.
own healing, and it was.
Okay.
And Christine had done that work before as well.
Okay.
And
Tell us about that. That sounds amazing.
we just brought up a lot the outcome was, but it was months of pain and agony, essentially, because it was really bringing me face to face with so much of my shadow and demons that I'd touched on before, but I didn't know how to go there by myself to that depth. And
Because Christine wasn't with you in this sort of
no,
dynamic.
this was
This was
this
your
me.
personal journey.
Yes, this was me and a couple that took me through this.
Wow.
Yeah, an older couple that took me through. This is what they do in the world, right?
Right,
This is,
right. That's their work.
That's their work, right?
Yes.
And it was tough, and it brought up a lot of stuff. And lucky Christine had that experience, so she had an idea, but her experience wasn't like mine. I just had a lot of stuff there still.
Oh, wow.
And I had a sense and a feeling, but again, you don't know what you don't know, and that brought up a lot of stuff for me, and it brought it out of me. And a number of months later, once that all settled, there was deep freedom, and the groove that we got into in our relationship was just so beautiful. And the energy of that, we are still in that energy.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, and because it laid such a strong foundation for who we both are to each other and for each other in our relationship and in the world as well. Yeah, a very profound experience.
Wow. Wow. And I mean, that's again a testament to how you show up even in your work online as a papa. And I feel like, I think you answered so many questions for listeners in their mind about either being in a relationship or having partners or having been through a relationship where they were the cheater or they had, some sort of infidelity in their relationship. And there's a lot of that betrayal. And for you to kind of share this experience of the why behind it many times, instead of having that judgment, I think it's so powerful to really go into, especially if your partner is even open into doing a lot of that work. You were able to kind of go in and see, well, what was I really needing from all of that? And what was that bringing up for me? And being brave to even have those conversations. Yeah,
and I couldn't be brave beforehand, like in my life. I couldn't do that. I didn't have that level of courage, so I hid in the shadows. I was very clear. I went through a phase of, I don't think I'm ever going to be with anyone because
oh wow,
I have no choice now. I have to share my truth, and my truth, my past isn't very attractive. Like, it's really quote unquote ugly. I don't think there's going to be any woman that really wants to be with me because she won't be able to trust me.
And this was your story.
This is my story, yeah. And so I had to move through that, and I spent a number of years like really moving through that and cultivating confidence around it. So when I met Christine, I pretty much told her straight away. We played a game where I'd ask her 5 questions, she would answer them, and then I would answer the 5 questions that I asked as well. And then the next time around, she would do the same. We'd just keep going back and forth.
Oh, that's a good game.
Fun game if you're meeting someone,
Okay.
And the questions can vary from,
Take note, Brave Table Fam.
That's right. What's your favorite food to, what's your deepest wound? Whatever. It doesn't matter, right? Whatever you want the questions to be.
Okay.
You could give yourself free reign.
Yeah.
And so it came up, and I just told her straight. I told her very directly what my experiences had been. And
in relationship.
Yeah, in relationship.
Oh, okay.
And she didn't balk at all. She very self-assured in herself. She could see the she could feel the transformation, I guess. And that is something that's very, very real for us, whereas we are deeply and profoundly honest with each other. And because that's the life that I want to live, and it's the life that she wants to live as well. Particularly for me, because my history is around lying and dishonesty. It's so important for me to really just naturally step into that and be that person. But yeah, she never judged me. She held such deep compassion. That's where healing transpires in relationship, is when we're met with non-judgment and compassion. And she does that and did that so beautifully well, which allowed me to go even to deeper layers of healing within myself and self-forgiveness.
Because she was able to look at you with full acceptance and not judgment.
Yeah.
Of like, I'm not afraid that you're going to do this to me because I trust that this is where we're at. And it allowed you to go even deeper.
Yep.
Ooh, that's so good. Wow. Wow. And I want to segue into what probably most people who follow you and your Instagram and the juiciness that comes out of some of the content that Stephanos puts out. Where do you get your inspiration from these uber, highly passionate, erotic showcases? And how do you even find the talent that puts out such amazing, you know, and even super edgy, but like really activating images?
You just sort of find the images, you just find them. They come to you. You do a Google search, you do an Instagram search, and you find there's some beautiful images out there. There's amazingly talented people out there.
Incredible.
Incredible.
Like
yeah.
incredible. Wow.
Yeah, very much so. The inspiration comes, if I have to be honest.
Because no, it's your prose too. It's how you speak about it as well. So can you share with us that process? Because it's big.
Yeah, it feels big, and it comes very natural to me. I think a big part of it is something beyond me moves through me and expresses through me, and it's not completely my own.
Had you always been like that as a writer?
To some extent, yeah. I started. I just didn't know how to capitalize on it. Could have been a billionaire now. Who knows? I started blogging when I was 20, 21. So
Really?
20 years ago, yeah. I had my own blog. It was called, I'm pretty sure it was sweatingblood.blogspot.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What it was about mindset and mental resilience and what happens when we take ourselves through physical exertion. Because I got very addicted to being defined and my value and my worthiness being defined by my physical output and performance.
Got it. Okay.
And everything I went through. And so I would just blog on that, and I would write every day, and it would be thousands of words a day.
Oh, wow.
1,000 words, 2,000 word blogs.
So you've already written like 10 books basically.
And the rest.
Wow.
Yeah. So yes, it comes naturally to some degree, but naturally meaning 20 years of work. But again, it's something that I think really moves through me. And if I refine it at a human level, it's my own personal experiences. It's how I see the world, the lenses by which I view the world, the work, the deep work I do with my clients. I mean, I do a lot of client work, and I see these.
And even individual, like intensive work too.
Yes. Group work, large group, small group work. Really understanding the collective essence and pain points of what relationships bring, and sexuality and shame and trauma and the intersection, integration of all those things. I just live this work, right? So, and I just have a propensity to explore that, and it's also parts of what I crave and desire, and then am able to explore at some level in my relationship with Christine, and maybe sometimes not, and then we hit that and go, oh, why can't we explore this? Let's explore that. And then what does that look like? And the meaning and the depth underneath and behind all that as well. And so it just feels very real to me, and it becomes very easy. And again, I'm just gonna be completely transparent.
Yeah.
So I produce a lot of content because I enjoy creating.
Okay.
And so if I stop creating and producing content right now, I could post once a day on all my platforms and have content for at least 10 months.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's how much you've already written.
Yeah.
And it's just, do you have a process around it? Because
Yes.
Table Fam, you got to check out his Instagram. I mean, it is like poetry on a different level.
The Sunday posts are, I guess, yeah. And when I say post, I don't mean the Sunday post. I'm actually talking about just all my general content, right?
Wow.
But the Sunday post particularly, sometimes I'll write, I'll just be in a mood, and I'll write out 4 or 5 in a row. And then, hey, I've got, 5 weeks worth, going to do 1 a week of those ones.
Wow.
But then the other
it's brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah, I love creating, right? I love thinking and feeling and playing with words. But there'll be times, most of the time, with the Sunday post.
Yes.
Honestly, I'll wake up Sunday morning, not to be too crude, but just to be fucking really honest.
Yeah.
I may just sit in the toilet and it just
comes out on
within
the
a few minutes
toilet.
just moves through me. Pardon the pun. So that's
both essences.
Yeah, or I'll just be, again, I'll be training.
Yeah.
and I won't be doing anything too intense, but I'm moving, and then something hits me, I just stop and I just there, and it's done. Or I'm walking and it comes through me, or I'm having a conversation with someone and they may say one word or one short phrase and it just hits me. And then that phrase, that sentence, that word, or those 3 words strung together become the spawning of that post and that expression.
Oh, wow.
And that could be the opening sentence, and then boom, everything just flows from that.
Wow. That could be like your next, another serial entrepreneurial business, is like teaching people how to get into that creative flow state, because I think it's so magical. And the way you put these words together, coupled with the images, of course, is like a whole another dimension. But that's a serious gift.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoy it. And, something I'll share, because I think your audience is quite entrepreneurial, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So something that I'll share, which I think is worth sharing, is that for many years, I wouldn't get a like, I wouldn't get a comment, I may get 1 or 2, but I was committed to expressing and mastering that art of expression. No matter what, I committed to doing a live video every day on Facebook, and I look back
Every day.
Every day.
For how long?
It was at least a year.
You did this every day?
Yeah, and then I went back and I would do it like every two times a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, whatever. But I was committed to just practice, because it's very difficult for me.
Of course.
And practicing that. And I didn't care who watched or who didn't. I hoped that someone would benefit from it. But one of the key drivers was I wanted to get better at expressing. I wanted to become more proficient and connect to people. And so I needed to practice that. I needed to be in the immersive of that. And so that's what I did. And I believe it's paid off. And it's just something that I'm very comfortable with now, because I sat in the discomfort of it for so long.
Right. And I feel like this is the theme of our discussion today, is like sitting with the discomfort of sometimes the feelings that come up.
Yeah, I don't think we do it enough. I think we avoid it like the plague. And that's one of the reasons why we have so many pathologies in our society, collective and individual, and in relationship.
And the escapism that comes as an afterthought for it.
I've been very good at that.
Ooh, okay. As we shift gears a little bit and get into our igniting round, before we do that, I want to ask one final question, though, and just advice for, I think, the women listening who are really looking for that partner, and maybe they come across your post or they come across something that you've put out. What advice would you give to them, for those that are like looking for the one?
Yeah. Christine and I have a beautiful program called Be the Queen, which specifically addresses this. It's a 15-week immersive.
I love that.
Yeah, it is a really beautiful program.
You guys put it together?
Yeah. We've been doing it for years. Yeah.
Be the Queen.
Yeah, it's called Be the Queen.
Be the Queen.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I love it.
And it is a beautiful program. And to answer your question very directly, we spend the first portion of the program really supporting women in healing their past traumas.
Oh,
and
we don't do enough of that.
I don't think we create the space for ourselves, the safe spaces for ourselves to do that.
Be the queen.
Yeah, and that's what it's the embodiment. And sometimes that word may trigger some people, like queen may trigger some people, but there's layers to that. There's so many layers to that. But again, the first portion of that, this answers your question, I believe it does, is we just help people feel safe in their bodies. We help women feel safe in their bodies and help them address their relationship to the masculine and the relationship to their fathers and the relationship to men in their lives that have played a prominent role, that have maybe hurt them collectively and individually.
Oh, that's huge.
Yes, and clearing that clutter out so it creates space to trust again and feel safe again and to love again and to love themselves. Like the self-worth piece, like really helping them substantially, so let me go back, sustainably and from a place of substance, elevate their self-worth. And so if you can do that, you then begin to attract a different caliber of relationship, because you are not coming from a wounded place. You're not coming from pain that needs to attract more pain to reinforce a belief system or an ideology about yourself, or that has to keep attracting a set of circumstances in an attempt to have a redo unconsciously.
Yeah.
So we help women deliberately face their stuff in safe spaces so they don't have to keep repeating that.
Oh, wow. Okay, and it's a 15-week program.
When we teach it live, but it's also available as evergreen
Oh,
as
it
well.
is.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Where can we find it? Because my
Yeah.
my audience is like, this sounds too juicy
Yeah,
to pass up right now.
It's special. So we are more than likely
Okay.
going to do a live at the end of this year in 2022.
Ooh, so exciting. Okay, let's stay tuned for that.
But you can find it, information on that either on my website, stephanosophandos.com, or Christine's website, christinehassler.com.
Perfect.
And all the details are there.
We'll put everything in the show notes. And I think, well, what you guys are addressing is so big and it's so huge because we all have a girlfriend who constantly has these issues with relationship. And they're just like, why is the same things happening to me? Why am I attracting the same kind of men? There's no love out there for me. Or, I've been trying to find my king for the longest time. Where is he at? And you're so right about this, to be able to face some of those demons. Because a lot of times, ladies, we go into trying to overwork and overdo in other projects. And so we get busy. And we put our babies with our work as our babies, and we just ignore some of the work that I think is so needed that you and Christine do on such a powerful, expanding level.
Yeah, and it can be. And also, I want to recognize there are some women that maybe don't want to have children and don't want to have that experience, and that's completely okay. And maybe there's some women out there that don't want to even be in an intimate relationship and union, and that's completely okay as well. There's no wrong and right here. It's just what you come from. Like, where's the energy of that coming from? Like, can you be really honest with yourself? Like, where is the aversion or the need or the desire or the value set coming from? And if you're super clear that it's coming from a healthy place, then stay on your track and stay on your path.
But if you're curious about it, then this is where the work can come from.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay, because I know you have limited time, so we're going to let you go. But before we do that, our igniting round, what does it mean to be brave?
To do the thing that you should do or need to do, but are avoiding. Like, if I had to just condense it, that's what I would say bravery is. And to extend that a little bit, because I do use words probably too much sometimes. To face our traumas, our unresolved traumas. I think that's one of the bravest things that we can do, because from there stems our ability to be truthful with other people, to step into our power, to heal, to feel whole, to live the life that we truly desire. And I don't just say that as a nice adage or something to tack onto a postcard, but like to actually really live the life that we're happy with. A good question to ask is, if you had all the money in the world, and money being this tool, right? What would you do with your time? Legitimately, what would you do with your time? And so when I'm asked that question, I don't really think I'd be doing much of anything different than I'm doing now.
Same.
I'd shift things a little bit, definitely shift things a little bit.
Yep.
And create more space for myself. But the work that I'm doing, I'd be deeper in it. Like a lot deeper in it. And I'd be utilizing a lot of that money to amplify it.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. And one word that describes this season of life.
This season of life? Presence. It's definitely required of me right now.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. Wow. So many gems being dropped today. Steph, where can we connect? I know on IG, but if you can say it one more time for everybody.
Of course, yeah. So my IG is at Stephanos.
Very Greek of you.
Very Greek of me, yes. Very Greek of me, as is my daughter's name, Athena, which was
so true.
my paternal grandmother's name as well.
Was that your grandmother's name? Oh my gosh, because you guys wanted Athena like from the get-go.
Yeah,
the name.
Mean, it came to Christine and she shared it with me. I'm like, yeah, 100%.
Amazing.
Yeah. And you can find my new book that's coming out in September, which is all about what we spoke to, the Sunday posts and
the Sunday, yes.
Yes, and the depth of unraveling and how to move through that trauma. And
your book is coming out in September.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wait, when?
20th, which is when Christine and I got married as well.
Oh my goodness. Amazing. Wait, what's the title of the book?
Tuned in and turned on.
Tuned in and turned on.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all about the Sunday posts.
Yeah, and there's a lot of substance to it, particularly in the masculine, feminine sections as well, where I go really deep into supporting women, understanding men and the masculine, energetic within and without at a deeper level.
What a big year for you guys.
Yeah, to say the least.
Wow, I'm so excited for you all.
Yeah, thank you.
And for you and your book and
you.
just everything. So amazing.
Appreciate you.
Until next time on the Brave Table.